Hey, bud.
Hey, bud.
You're not in Calgary.
Nope. Looks like you aren't either.
Nope. So CREB released some May numbers.
Yeah, I've read them.
Of course you have.
So, want to talk about it?
I'm not doing anything better, am I? Right. Let's start with the numbers everybody's probably going to be seeing floating around, which is Calgary's benchmark price, which is down 3% year over year. And I know that's exactly what everybody's thinking as that happens. Time to go buy all the toilet paper, get yourself a bunker.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, 3% is just luxury milk. I wouldn't say there's any need to panic. Sky's probably not falling.
Still sunny days to be had in Calgary. We've just gone from like Vindaloo hot conditions down to more like butter chicken. So the benchmark price in May was 570,500. And yes, that's lower than May of last year, but in January it was 554,400. So from January to May, the benchmark price is actually up about 16 grand.
Yeah, the year over year comparison matters, but you have to understand what you're comparing against, right? May 2025 was still close to the top of a very heated market. So you're not really comparing normal against normal. It's more kind of comparing sensible against a market that had been on the source for the last 2 years. So yeah, it does look down year over year, but I wouldn't say that it means that we have to hit the panic stations.
Sales were 2,162 in May, which is down 16% from last year, but very similar still to April.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like May rolled its ankle after a Usain Bolt like sprint. We've been running at a pretty steady pace for a couple of months now. You know, the market had its sprint through 2022 and 2023 into early 2024. So I'd say that we're not really seeing a crash. We're more seeing a market that sat down, had a glass of water, and remembered that a breather is good for the soul and the body.
Days on market was 34. Last May, they were down to 32.
2 days.
Yeah, 2 days.
Ooh, devastating stuff. Thoughts and prayers for the extra weekend on the market, right?
This is where the headline number becomes a bit useless on its own because talking about the Calgary market as if it's one single thing is a little bit misleading. It's not one market, it's several markets wearing the same camouflage.
Yeah, I mean, detached homes were sitting at about, what, 2.45 months of supply, which is pretty balanced territory. I think that the benchmark price was just shy of 750K.
Yeah, detached is fine. It's not flying the way it was a couple of years ago, but it's fine. If you've got a good detached home and a good location with a bit of yard and it's priced properly, you're not exactly wandering into a disaster zone.
Talking about disaster zones, then there's apartments.
Yeah, and then there's apartments.
Yeah, I mean, apartments are at what, 5.14 months of supply. Benchmark price was just over 300,000, which was down like 9% year over year. Sales were down 30% year over year. I think days on market were up 46 days.
So apartments are a very different conversation. That is a buyer's market, full stop. If you're buying a condo in Calgary right now, you have options. You have time and you probably have more negotiating power than you've had in a while, which means, and I say this lovingly, don't go charging in like it's 2022 and you've got 12 minutes to decide whether you like the kitchen backsplash.
Part of the issue is that the resale condos are competing with new builds and rentals. Buyers have more choice than they did before, and it's putting pressure on the resale apartment market. If you own an apartment you're thinking about selling, this is where you need to have a very honest conversation with your aspirations. Not just let's try the big number and see what happens, like a proper one, proper conversation, get serious. Because in this market, getting the price wrong is not just a little mistake. It can cost you like momentum, time, and money.
That's where we come in, by the way. We're the honest conversation.
Beautifully subtle, Thomas.
I thought so.
Okay, mate, now that we've done that shameless little self promo, let's get into the districts because, again, Calgary is doing its whole thing, but individual areas are doing widely different things within Calgary. So,
West Calgary detached is still very strong. Benchmark price is $1,052,000 with only 1.77 months of market supply. That's still a seller's market territory. Year over year, prices are basically flat, which in this environment is actually a pretty good result.
Yeah, the West has been one of the more resilient parts of the city for a while now. Doesn't really surprise me. You've got established communities, bigger homes, good schools, access to the mountains, good lifestyle appeal, all the stuff that people with a higher budget tend to care about. So if you list a good home in the West, you're not really entering the market that's gasping for air. You're entering more of a market where, buyers are still active and supply is relatively tight.
The Northwest is also holding up well. Detached months of supply are 2.01 with a benchmark price of 799,000. Semi-detached prices in the Northwest are record highs year to date.
And that makes sense too. The Northwest has a mix of established communities, newer areas, good access, and still in some pockets, slightly more approachable pricing than the West. But then we go to the other side of the spectrum.
The Northeast detached benchmark is down 7% year over year. Months of supply are 4.18, and the sales to new listings ratio is 38%.
Yeah, which is buyer's territory for detached homes in the Northeast. And I mean, this is why it drives me mad when people say, how's the market? As if it's one clean answer. Because if you own a detached in West Springs, the answer is completely different from, owning an apartment in the Northeast somewhere.
The Northeast apartment market is one of the hardest hit pockets right now. Nearly 8 months of supply, and prices are down 13% year over year.
Yeah, I mean, that is a proper shift, and it doesn't mean that every property is completely unsellable, but it does mean strategy has got to change. You can't price like it's last year, you can't market like it's last year, and you definitely can't ignore the competition and hope that buyers somehow don't notice. They notice, they do have phones, and it is very, very inconvenient.
This is why the headline number only tells you so much. Property type, price point, location, and competition matter more than the citywide averages.
Yeah, exactly. The citywide number is the cover of the book. Your actual property is chapter 7 with a plot twist and slightly suspicious side character. That's the bit that we need to really look at. And again, not to be aggressively helpful, but if you want us to look at your specific situation, it's kind of what we do.
Even from Iceland.
Apparently the Wi-Fi works too.
Intermittently.
There are a couple of interesting side stories in the data this month as well. Say the first one is Cochrane.
Cochrane is the outlier. While a lot of markets are seeing sales slow down year over year, Cochrane sales are actually up 6.5%. Benchmark price is 576,400, and it's been climbing steadily since January.
Yeah, I mean, Cochrane just keeps doing its Cochrane thing. It's close enough to Calgary that people can still reasonably commute, but it feels different enough that people feel like they've made a lifestyle choice rather than just bought what they can afford.
Months of supply in Cochrane is under 3, which is strong compared with a lot of the other surrounding markets.
Yeah, exactly. In this kind of environment, that actually is kind of impressive. Less inventory buildup, places still moving up since January, and buyer demand's still there. Cochrane's not for everyone, obviously. If your idea of a good commute is under 12 minutes and no thoughts, maybe you're not looking in the right area, but for the right buyer, it makes a lot of sense.
The other one is luxury. Homes over 1.5 million are seeing sales up year over year.
Which, I mean, is generally interesting because it tells us that the higher end buyer has not disappeared from Calgary. I mean, they might be taking their time, they might be more selective, they might be refusing to buy something with a grey laminate waterfall island and motivational quotes in the mudroom, but they're still there.
Higher end detached homes in West Calgary are still moving when the product's right.
Yeah, I mean, at the top end, buyers are picky, and frankly, they should be. But if the home is special, priced correctly, and properly presented, then it's a segment of the market that still has life in it. So, I mean, practically speaking, what does this all mean? If you're buying a detached home in the West, Northwest, or parts of the South, don't assume you're walking into some huge discount market. supply is still relatively tight in a lot of those areas, and good homes are still getting attention, right?
You can be thoughtful, but you probably can't be lazy.
Yeah, be measured, but maybe not sleepy. If the right home comes up and it's priced well, you need to be ready, right? That doesn't mean panic buying. It means being prepared enough that you can move properly when the opportunity's actually there.
If you're buying a condo, the advice is different. You have more time, more inventory, and more leverage.
Yeah, condo buyers, this is one of those rare moments where you can actually take a breather, look at the competition, compare the buildings properly, understand the condo fees, even read the documents. Just don't fall in love with the one that has nice staging and an aggressively tiny dining table.
If you're selling a detached home in a good location, spring is still working for you. Pricing and presentation still matter, but there's a lot of demand.
Yeah, I mean, detached sellers in strong pockets don't need to panic, but they probably do need to be sensible. The days of just chucking a number on the wall and having 3 offers by dinner are not the default anymore. You still need the right price, the right prep, and proper marketing.
If you're selling an apartment, the pricing conversation needs to be very direct.
Yeah, it does. And I know that's not always fun because nobody wants to hear that their property is worth, less than it might have been 18 months ago. But the buyers know, and the data is public, the competition is obvious, and pretending that the shift hasn't happened is not really an advisable strategy. It's really just expensive optimism in a blazer.
For most people, the data supports patience.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the best way to put it. This is a much better market for thoughtful decisions than the chaos that we saw a couple of years ago. You can actually think, you can compare, and you can negotiate in certain segments, which is always fun. And as a seller, you can still do well if your strategy matches the actual market, not the market you wish you were selling in.
Right. I think that's the May update done. I'm going to get back to exploring.
Yeah, good call, bud. I gotta go meet my dad for lunch and go do some retail therapy anyway.
Until next time.
See you next week, mate. Have a safe flight.